Right, so today I'll be making another multiverse tier list, more specifically a crew tier list for multiverse. This will be including the standard crew, the elite crew, super elites, and I guess secret crew, because secret crew are a different dynamic compared to just standard crew. This tier list will be excluding unique crew, haunts, and other kinds of unnecessary crew, such as like crew that may be associated with another crew to begin with. Like for example, the Ozmain holograms as a part of the Ozmain crew themselves, or the technician drones, which are, well, pretty much what make a technician crew, viable and strong. So those kinds of crew will obviously be excluded because they're not really that important to rank compared to everything else. And also like morph variants, for example, as well, because we're ranking morphs as they are. We don't really need to go step by step every progression of how a morph is good or not. So, and then again, I try to condense this list a little bit by maybe plucking out even like a couple just standard crew that shouldn't be in here. But overall, there's still a lot of items to go over here. Like not as much as my previous tier list where I had like literally a ship tier list with about 200 different ships. This tier list only has 78 crew, or maybe give or take one or two, which is significantly less than 200, obviously. This shouldn't take too long, I believe, but again, I do want to be a little in depth for some of these crew because, well, some people are, I guess some of the crew are controversial in how strong they are, well. We'll get to them eventually. Like ghosts, I can think of immediately, or maybe even leeches. Some people might think they're better than they actually are, or they're actually made to be, right? So, anyways, not before, but rather, without further ado, let's just get right into this then. I'll just be going down the list as it shows. There's no real reason to like start with basic crew. I'll just go down the list as it shows. Oh yeah, one more thing is that if you have any questions or comments that you want to ask about the tier list, or maybe there's something like you disagree with, please ask in the comments. Of course, I'll be happy to respond or debate with you if you think that one of these crew might be misranked. Because I'd love to, have some proper hindsight on my tier list for once. Because I have experience in this game, but looking back to my tier list I made like 3 or so weeks ago. Yeah, I kind of misranked a couple of ships looking in hindsight. Not by like an astronomical amount. I think the tier list is still pretty good. Well, at least that's what my audience thought with, over 15 likes and everyone pretty much agreed with it. So, but regardless, so if you have any comments or questions, please say them below. And yeah, now without further ado, we can get right into this. So, cognitives. Probably B tier, I'd say. So the thing with cognitives is that they're really good ship side, and they're kind of vulnerable to boarding, mostly just because of the maximum HP situation. The liberated mode, along with just the overall like effectiveness as a combative unit, they're pretty effective at what they do, but they have really low HP, and you can only get cognitives inside the Obelisk wastelands and homeworlds, and if you're in those two sectors, you're gonna want to go for regular Obelisks instead. You don't really care about cognitives. Cognitives are definitely fine, don't get me wrong, but they aren't really the best ship side, I could say, because the basic cognitives, the crew I just ranked, they're level 1 trained in every skill, but they can't upgrade past that. Well, they can, but like effectively in a real game situation, they will never upgrade properly. Well, not upgrade, but they won't level up their training. So they're basically hard stuck at level 1 training, no matter what system you put them on or what you use them for. What else to say about them? I guess the liberated mode is kind of an interesting playstyle if you use them. I don't know if you like to use the liberated cognitives. It suffers the same issue as any other kind of AI-controlled crew, though. They just make the most awful decisions at the worst times. I guess out of all the crew that are AI-controlled, such as like horses or spiders and whatever else, I think the cognitives are probably the best at being AI-controlled. but that doesn't mean they should still want them to be AI controlled, right? So, I guess it all boils down to that, yeah, these cognitives are definitely pretty good, but there are better ship-side alternatives, for sure. And even boarding alternatives. But obviously, you know, if you start them somehow, I guess they are usable. Advanced cognitives, though, are definitely A tier. They are direct upgrades from regular cognitives, like straight direct upgrades. They have more maximum health, they deal more combat damage, they're level 2 trained and everything, so they can be put on any system with maximum efficiency. The liberated stats are even higher than the regular cognitive. They get even more combat damage, even more repair speed, more movement speed. I think even maybe even a stun resistance, but don't quote me on that for sure. I've just noticed that they're just killing machines inside the liberated mode. If you do use the liberated mode, of course. Normally you don't want to, because you want the cognitive to be doing its job at all times. You know, for example, like on piloting and whatever. One thing to say about advanced cognitives, though, is that you can only get 2 of them ever. Well, if you without spawning them in or starting with them, you can only get 2. You can get 1 from the Royal Transport and 1 from the Distressed Catgirl event inside the Obelisk Homeworlds, which is, I guess it's kind of balanced, considering that the advanced cognitives are, if you have any kind of regular crew, like humans or slugs across your ship, the advanced cognitives are obviously just flat better in every way, and they're even better ship side. And again, they're direct upgrades from cognitives. I'm more than happy to use regular cognitives, right? I would like to use something better, but if I have cognitives, I'll use them. And advanced cognitives are even better than regular cognitives, right? So if I'm willing to use regular ones, am I really going to be that much more prone to using the elite versions or the advanced cognitives? I mean, you bet. So definitely A tier. I mean, it can't be worse than the regular cognitive, right? So, anyways, crystals, probably B tier. I would say maybe A tier, but I think B tier just because they're more codependent than they are in vanilla. The crystals have been changed quite a bit in the dynamics. I think the 2 notable ones are the overall combat efficiency is kind of weakened. They have increased maximum HP, but they deal only 80% of combat damage. Well, a modifier of 0.8, I believe. Which is not horrible, obviously. It's not like an Engi, but it is a thing to consider in some fights where the combat damage might matter. Like say against Mantis or other crystals, right? But the lockdown ability has been changed where you have multiple charges in a jump, which normally doesn't matter too much because the thing with crystals is that you use the lockdown to basically hard focus on whatever system and crew that you're fighting in the current time, which is usually doesn't require more than 1 or 2 lockdowns. And I think the charge just kind of makes that redundant, at least mostly redundant anyway. But I guess it's something to consider that, hey, maybe if the fight is really long or the fight's really hard, hey, I guess you got 1 more charge for the crystal to do something. So maybe it's actually a good thing, but and effectively it's not any better than just a regular lockdown, from vanilla. But yeah, they're definitely pretty good crew. If you pair them with any kind of combative crew, in a boarding party, they become very, very good. They're basically they're probably one of the best border support crew that actually do stand a chance alone by themselves, I should say. I used to think the crystals are honestly A tier, but I think that they're just slightly too too codependent on your other boarding crew. If you have crystals and Mantis, obviously the crystals are probably one of the best crew you could use, but that requires you to have no codependency. So if this tier list is basically off how versatile are these crew, how can you win? How well can you win a run? How fast can you win a run? So besides, I've spent a lot of time with crystals, right? So crystals are definitely B tier. No worse than C tier, obviously. Not in any world. Liberated Crystals, or the Crystalline SSGL, whatever you want to call them. Definitely A tier though. So definitely A tier though. This might come as a little bit of a surprise to some people. the Liberated Crystals actually only deal 50% of combat damage, so they deal even less than the regular crystals. But the lockdown ability provides a shit ton of buffs for your allied crew in the same room. They gain a sabotage bonus, repair bonus, and environmental damage resistance. I don't remember the exact numbers, but they're definitely pretty considerate, because, well, obviously I wouldn't rank them this high if they weren't significant. But yeah, as I said before, though, I think the SSGL crystals have slightly less HP than the regular crystals. I think they have like 110, but I don't know that for sure as well, though. So, until I can like confirm it, I would say they're S tier, but compared to these other S tier crew coming up, I think that, again, they suffer the same thing as any other crystal. They have codependency. They can't really get it done all by themselves. They need something else to go well with them. But besides that, nice crew. Crystalline Sentinels, or Crystal Sentinels, I could say. They're definitely A tier. They are direct upgrades from the regular crystals. Like, there's actually I think the only debuff the Sentinels have is that they move a little bit. They move slower, but probably by like, I think it's like what, 25% slower than the regular crystals. So I think they're still faster than rocks, which is, if you're faster than a rock, you're good enough. So the Sentinels have a short enough cooldown and even more overall charges, where you can basically lock down the room indefinitely until your charges run out, which is 8 charges. And I think even with like titanium system casing, there's still like 8 lockdowns, like in what you might call it, 8 lockdowns in sequence, like over and over and over. I don't think there's a single system in the game that has enough system boss to resist that much sabotage potential. So again, the codependency still exists in Sentinels, but it's a lot less prominent because the lockdown is just like all effect. It always works with the Sentinels and other crew that you use. So I think because of that the crystal lockdown becomes so much stronger. I do think they are definitely direct upgrades to the regular crystals, and no worse than regular crystals at that too. So Engis are probably either A or B tier. I'll put like high B tier. Let's say like low A, high B tier. So the Engis have been actually changed a considerable amount, to be honest. So they have 10 less maximum HP with a total of 90. They have reduced fire and suffocation, and they still have the 50% combat damage, but 200% repair speed. So they're pretty much the same as they are in vanilla. I guess the blue options are very, very good. Well, the ones that actually are good. When they apply, they're good, I should say. For example, like the I'm trying to figure out the one where it's like, I think it's like a broken satellite station that's it's the defense probe that's like shooting at the engineers. And if you use the Engi blue option, it's like you remotely repair it. So that obviously the blue options like that, where they give you like high scrap or just free shit. Yeah, the Engis are pretty good. And I would put them in A tier, but I don't know. I feel like Engis, again, they're codependent. They need something else to go with them besides just a whole bunch of Engis. Whatever it looks like. I mean, maybe it's E-Grid, maybe it's Mantis crew even, maybe it's just more and more Engis, but regardless. Very good for what they do, but I don't think they're absolutely like the most viable crew you could run. Like ship side at least. Engi Defenders are direct upgrades from regular Engis. Well, I guess, the only debuff they get is that they deal even less combat damage. They do 35% combat damage compared to just 50%. But they repair even faster. I think it's like 270%. They take even less suffocation and fire. They have 100 HP. And they have an active ability where it deploys a shield that will resist mind control and only take 10% damage from all sources, which would mean from other enemy crew, from weapon fire, from environmental damage, and I think the only thing that will bypass it is like things that are, well, literally bypass anything. Like for example, like combustion or damage over time augments. But besides that, they are probably the single best crew for ship side that you could run in the late game. Early game, I mean, you don't really need that maximum efficiency in repairing and manning, but late game, it could be the difference between repairing your weapon system in time or not to, I guess, not get trolled by whatever enemy you're fighting. But that's besides the point, so. Engi Separatists are easily one of the best crew in the game. Probably like a top 3, maybe even a top 2. Where do I begin with these? I guess I should start with that the Separatists shouldn't exist. I think the Separatists should be removed from the game just because of how absolutely broken they are. So they are Engis that broke off from the Harmony. They have 100 HP instead of 90. They deal slightly more combat damage but slightly less repair speed. They take reduced, like much more reduced suffocation, but they don't have a resistance to fire. And the last thing is that, well, I guess which is the cherry on top, you could say, is that they have an active ability to go into nanite mode, or nano mode, which prevents all mind control attempts. They cannot repair or heal or fight, but the Separatists gain 300 effective HP along with the ability to phase through doors. Effective because it's damage resistance. So I think you can almost right away see how how Separatists are broken. I would go on like a tangent to explain why these crew are so unbelievably strong, but I feel like I think I can summarize it pretty well. Like, let's say in Sector 8 you're going against like a dive ship, like an MFK Ace drop ship. They board you with 4 MFKs into one room, and it's still like far away from a vent or so, right? One Engi Separatist in its nanite mode is able to hold off 4 MFKs for at least, what is it, like 8 or 9 seconds because of the damage resistance. So if you think about that, one standard Separatist Engi is able to hold off 4 super elites in the same room. I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think there should be any crew in the game that's able to counteract 4 super elites. Like, not even knights. I don't think the knights should be able to combat MFKs, but you know, here we are in playing multiverse. So, I mean, if that's not enough to convince you, I don't know what will. I mean, oh yeah, I guess here's another thing. The Separatist Engis almost share all of the good blue options with regular Engis. Like I talked about before, with like the malfunctioning, like malfunctioning defense probe, which is high scrap rewards. And overall, and again, they're still Engis. And the repair speed, you know, as I said before, they have less repair speed than regular Engis, but 1.75 times repair speed is still pretty good. I mean, yeah, I guess it's not like absurdly like repairing every system in like seconds, but that is still very, very good. And considering the rest of the Separatists is just super broken to begin with, yeah, I think it's the only balancing factor of the Separatist Engi is that I guess it can be counted by things that go through damage resistance, like that'll penetrate it for like damage over time or whatever. But like otherwise, I don't know what to say for the crew. I mean, there probably should be like a whole tier just dedicated to Separatists, but I feel like that's a little corny, so just put them in A tier. Ghosts are probably C or B tier. I think I'd probably C tier just because, I mean, I would put them in B tier, but they do have liabilities. I guess they aren't vagabonds, so okay, fine. They'll stay in C. Let's say high C tier. People love to use ghosts because of their sabotaging strats, where they can use like non-corp, or again, just ghosts are really good at sabotaging. Except here's the thing: if I'm gonna do sabotage strats, or if I'm gonna do crew kill strats, whatever you want to do with ghosts, I'm not gonna use ghosts. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna use Augmented. I'm gonna use Free Mantis. I would even use like Commandos, right? The ghosts aren't even the best at their job. They imply they're really good at sabotaging. Oh, like 2 times sabotage speed. They phase through doors. They're immune to environmental hazards or environmental damage and all that. You know, that's all great until you realize they aren't even the best at their jobs, because they don't have good maximum HP. They have 80 maximum HP. Like if we thought 90 or 70 was low, well, I mean 70 is lower, but if we thought 90 was low, Now we got a 80 HP crew that's really only good at sabotaging, and which is actually kind of a bad thing in the early game, if anything, because you don't really care about sabotaging systems. You want to kill the crew off as fast as you can. But that's probably blowing it all out of proportion. They're fine, I guess. They definitely aren't like vagabonds with like spawning breaches and fires all over your ship, but they definitely aren't like worthy of B tier. Like if we're looking at B tier here, and these are the crew that are in B tier, ghosts aren't better or equivalent to these crew, right? So I don't know about you, but they're definitely C tier. Alpha ghosts are pretty much identical to the same thing though. They are direct upgrades to the regular ghosts. They have even higher maximum HP. They sabotage even faster with like it's like 325% sabotage speed compared to just 200%. But again, they're ghosts, and if I want to do sabotage strats, I'm not using ghosts. So that's it for ghosts. Still decent crew. Again, C tier is like C tier is like the middle of the pack, I should say, because this looks low like in comparison to these other crew, but I think it's fair when we look at these other kinds of crew coming up. That's all. That's just my 2 cents. But next we got Ghouls, definitely D tier. I'm probably gonna go by the Ghouls, the Vagabonds, really fast because they all share the exact same weakness. They have less stats compared to the regular Phantoms, and they also have the unstable, and when they're not at full HP, and they'll put a bunch of status effects on your ship. Like they'll stun your own crew. They'll eye on your systems. They'll spawn fires. They'll do breaches. It's just a nightmare to micro, especially considering again, if I want to use ghosts, I don't actually know. If I want to use like sabotaging strats, I'm not gonna use ghosts. Like I don't know how many times I have to how many times I'm gonna have to repeat this. Well, I don't actually, but if the bottom line is I'm not gonna use ghosts. The ghosts aren't the best of the job, so not gonna use them. So again, like as I said before, none of the Vagabonds are on the level of the Phantoms, and even the Phantoms are still like middle of the pack. So I'm probably gonna breeze by them when we get to them. But yeah, and this is actually what I was talking about earlier. If you had any kind of questions or comments about ghosts or crew that you think I misranked, please comment, and I mean I'll try to civil debate, but I mean I will, but guarantees are out the window. Horses are probably C tier. I mean I don't know. I've seen horses are probably C tier. They aren't. I think out of like the Equinoid variants, between the tamed and the crystalline variant, the untamed horses are definitely the worst. They can only be AI controlled unless you use their ability, which only temporarily controls them. They cannot repair. They cannot man systems. They move fast, and I guess they deal some combat damage, but it's nothing impressive. I'm not gonna use horses. I'm gonna use free Mantis, right? So. Not much to say for them. Crystalline horses are direct upgrades though. Probably maybe even A tier, but I'll put B tier just because crystalline horses are interesting because they have basically the same stats or the same like functions as the untamed Equinoid or the untamed horse, except that they can be manually controlled at all times, and their active ability is to do a crystal lockdown. I think they also have a little bit higher maximum HP and combat damage. I think it's like 1.5 instead of the standard like 1.2 or 1.4. So definitely a bit better, but again, it's nothing absolutely impressive. And the only way you can get crystalline Equinoids is on Equinoid B, or if you spawn them in, or if you, I don't know, you buy them somehow. I don't really use horses at all, so maybe there's some event in the guild territory where we can buy a horse. Well, I mean, there is, but a crystalline horse? I don't know. Maybe. Tamed Equinoids are direct upgrades from regular untamed horses. Not much to explain for them. They can repair systems. Not good, but, they at least can repair, in theory. They move faster. They deal even more combat damage. They can be manually controlled at all times. And they just have better stats than the untamed, so, Humans are probably a big C or B. probably C tier just because they're the absolute baseline. They have regular combat damage, regular repair speed, regular movement speed. They learn skills slightly faster, and they have just a slight resistance against environmental damage. Nothing impressive, but, you know, a slight resistance. I will absolutely use humans if I have nothing else to use, but, you know, they do get replaced eventually. You know, not by angels, of course, but maybe by like orchids or some other shit going on. Angels are probably A or S or A, or A or S, I should say. I'll put them A tier just because they aren't the absolute like pinnacle of super elites. Angels are you cannot achieve an angel. You can only start with them. What should I say about them? I guess they're probably one of the best combative super elites. Combative, I should say. Not like effective, but just combative. In melee range, they only deal 1.3 combat damage, which is not bad, of course. But in range combat, they have an additional 70% modifier or multiplier on top of the damage, the increased damage they already deal. So at range, they can out DPS many crew, but again, that has to apply at range, and well, again, the less melee damage isn't impressive. They do take a lot less combat damage though, and they are very resistant to stun and environmental damage, and they come trained in level 2 skills, in all level 2 skills. So, you know, they are very, very respectable, but I probably don't absolutely use them for very long. Well, if I can find something better, of course, but given that they're A tier, it's kind of hard to beat them, so still very good, but not S. They aren't Separatists, so. Human Engineers are B tier. They are direct upgrades from regular humans. They have more repair speed. They take less damage from, I think less fire damage. They learn repairs even faster. They're just humans, but they are trained in repair from the get-go, so directly better. I guess some of the Rebel Engineer blue options, well, I guess engineers are just rebels in general, but they have less blue options than regular humans, which might matter in some places, but yeah, I don't know. I don't think they matter. It doesn't matter enough, so let's leave it at that. Legionnaires are probably A tier. Legionnaires is interesting because you literally cannot obtain these crew in any possible way except if you have a page 16 ship. They're basically bishops, like Mantis bishops, but as humans, and they have base repair. Well, I mean, they have the trained as well as based in repairs, so they're very good at repairing. They level 2 skills. They deal absurd amounts of combat damage. They do not take much combat damage. You know, they don't intake much. They move fast. They get combat resistance. The more enemies in the room, the more enemies are in the room. So they get even tankier with more enemies you're fighting. They aren't superior to MFK Aces though, which is interesting because Legionnaires by like the lore, they're even more miraculous, like super soldiers compared to MFK Aces, but the truth of the game is that they aren't. So I'll probably explain a bit more when I get to MFK Aces, but they are not strictly better than MFK Aces. I'll point that out because there's more to the game than just killing crew. I will say. Pyrotechnics are basically just Legionnaires, except they're just trained in like fire. It's funny because Pyrotechnics have 10 times ranged attack speed, but they only deal 30% ranged combat damage. So they can break down doors very fast. They can sabotage pretty well as well. I think probably like maybe not like absurdly well, but you know, a bit better than regular crew. They're immune to fire, of course. They spawn fires randomly, and on death they do basically like a shell implosion when they die. But yeah, besides that, they are not obtainable unless you use a page 16 ship, and they are not superior to MFK Aces. So human medics are probably A or B tier. Probably let's put like low A, high B. Actually, funny enough, basically the same same gimmick as like crystals, where they're codependent on your rest of your boarding party for them to be effective. Good, they are good at what they do, but they are codependent on the other crew in your party. They deal only 50% combat damage, and they learn combat even slower, but they have an active ability that heals all allies in the room by 50 HP. So the gimmick of a medic is basically you have like let's say you have like a 4-tile teleporter. You have let's say you have like 3 Mantis and 1 medic. Your medics, your Mantis are gonna be fighting the battle, right? And you're gonna be like most likely winning the first round. But then you have another wave of like 2 or 3 crew to fight, depending like how late you are in the game. What the medic does is it basically refreshes your crew by another 50%. Well, I mean for Mantis it's 50%, but other crew it can only be 50 HP. But it refreshes your crew with 50 HP that could literally be the difference between winning the fight 4v8 or not. Given that, you know, depending on what crew you assign them with, you know, medics with Mantis, medics with Orchids, or whatever you want to do, it can be the difference between winning the fight simply by the medic or not. So that I think for that circumstance, they're definitely A tier. They do have some good blue options for being a medical crew. They are humans, so again, baseline stats, you know, excluding combat damage. So yeah, MFK Aces are definitely S tier though. Let's see. Let me like think of the quick where their stats again. I think it's 200% combat damage, 150% sabotage. They take 70% environmental damage, and they come trained in level 2 everything. Everything is level 2 trained, so they are basically the pinnacle of shipside. One of the most ruthless killers boarding, and they get everything done by themselves, pretty much. Well, they aren't augmented, but they do get shit done. So, thing is though, I think you can only get 2 MFKs ever. One in the Obelisk homeworlds if you use Jerry, and the other one using maybe like an event in the Rebel Stronghold. I can't even remember anymore, but yeah, Aces are definitely very, very nice to use. Human soldiers are probably another S tier. The reason why is because soldiers are actually well, not very, but they're much more obtainable compared to Aces. And I think there's 2 things I really love about soldiers. The one thing is that they don't have any liabilities, and their blue options at civilian guards or militia guards are absurd. If you don't know, the soldiers and peacekeeper crew, or the elite variants, I should say, they have a blue option at civilian guards. If your no ID isn't too high, of course, you can get high scrap, high missiles, and an Osiris mine launcher, which sells for like 32 scrap. So with the human soldier alone, jump 1 into like a civilian sector, it's literally the difference between getting 70 scrap or not, with 1 click of a blue option. Yeah, I don't know about that, but I don't know about you, but that does seem a little batshit crazy. Not that they aren't on the level of Separatists, but they hold their ground very, very well. Plus, the base stats of a human soldier are very respectable, being 120% combat damage, taking less combat damage, and for some reason they're better at fighting fires than MFK Aces, which is funny because MFK Aces, they take 70% fire damage, and soldiers take 60%, so, I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, it's kind of funny, I guess. Technicians are probably high A or maybe even low S. I'll put them S tier just because I feel like they are probably one of the best elites that don't need to be codependent at all. The technician drones are very, very strong, especially ship side, and the technician crew themselves are like, I think it's actually even better that they don't target crew in combat, considering that they can basically always focus on repairing. They can always focus on like kiting or baiting crew into vented spaces. And again, the technician drones they have are so absurdly, so absurdly strong. So, yeah, I feel like they are definitely S tier. They also are very good, well, engineers, the technicians. So, they have a passive ability to repair even faster inside weapons, piloting, shields, engines, drone control, and I feel like maybe like 1 or 2 other systems I'm forgetting, but yeah, they're pretty good. Lanius, I'll probably B or A. I'll put probably B tier. They are like humans except they're anaerobic, and their blue options are very nice. In vanilla, Lanius are actually a bit like less. They're a bit overrated considering that there's no other crew in the game that kind of, well, excluding crystals, but if you're using Lanius and crystals, something's wrong with the game. But the problem with Lanius and vanilla is that they kind of inhibit your ability to properly repair many systems because of their oxygen drain and whatnot, which could prevent you getting that Engi into the room or not. In Multiverse, everything is blown out of proportion, obviously, and the Lanians become humans that are immune to suffocation and good blue options and, well, immune to suffocation. So, Augmented, I feel like it's only necessary if what the hell did I just do? Okay. I was gonna make another tiering, but, let's just say the Augmented are probably the single best crew in the game. If Separatists should be removed from the game, I think the Augmented should be removed from the multiverse. Like the multiverse that we literally live in right now. Like not like this computer screen, but the little fabric of reality. Augmented shouldn't exist. Where do I begin? Let's just talk about base stats, I guess. So they have 110 HP. They provide one Zoltan power to the current room. Well, 1 man power, I guess you can call it. Well, they're not at full HP. They slowly drain. Well, not slowly drain, but they do drain health. They sabotage systems 120% at 120% speed, which basically means 20% faster than normal. But now we get to the real shit. Is when you use augmented boarding, which I feel like if you're a returning subscriber, you know all about augmented boarding. Immediate system damage, immediate breach, all stats increase to 200%. Sabotage increases to 240% actually, and you don't decay, and you increase movement, increase sabotage, increase combat damage. You don't decay. What else? You do immediate system damage. Yeah, it's absurd. Like I don't think there's a single better boarding crew in the game than Augmented. There just isn't. The only thing that the Augmented need is a Colombe. If you have Colombe, you win the game with Augmented. There just simply is. That's the thing with like the Cruiser Augmented B. You have augmented boarding but no medical system. Once you get a Colombe, you win the run. You absolutely win the run because the Augmented can do everything. They can sabotage systems. They can tear a ship apart by themselves using their simulative ability and their sabotage. They are Lanius, so they're constantly draining oxygen. They can use a Lanius lab upgrade to make them even tankier with like 140 HP using the experimental alloy lab upgrade. I mean, the list can literally go. I could probably spend the rest of this tier list talking about just how good Augmented are. And obviously I'm not going to do that because I don't want to bore that many people, but if I could, and I could probably figure it what the hell I just do. Okay, anyways, if I could, if I was like lazy or not lazy, but if I was, persistent enough, I could probably make a tier just for Augmented, but I think you get the point of Augmented, so let's move on. Welders are definitely A tier. This is probably one of the most erratically good elites. Shipside, they are probably one of the best for like kiting or baiting crew. They actually have a really good liability. I actually have a solution to a liability that the regular Lanius have. If you don't have a medbay, the regular Lanius can actually, let's say if you have a clone bay, for example, the regular Lanius don't really, they can't really be like vented or like medical airlocked, right? They can't really just be refreshed. The Lanius Welders have an active ability that will metabolize, and they will rapidly regenerate health, which is basically solves the overall problem with Lanius. They sabotage and repair systems even faster, sabotage, and repair. They have increased maximum health, I think of like 120. And and passive abilities that they constantly drain health from all mechanical crew, which includes drones, Engis, Obelisks, which is, one thing to consider. Welders are basically hard counters to Obelisks, considering that they have good combat. The Welders, they drain Obelisk health. They can use their active abilities to become even tankier, and just the Welders overall are tankier because of the more maximum HP. So, yeah, I mean, I feel like if the only thing that put the Welders in A tier instead of S tier is that they can't be low aqua to do ship side, because they do their ability isn't helping you ever ship side. So, one thing to consider. Leeches are C tier for sure. Leeches are not very good crew. See, people love to be like delusional about their leeches because, well, okay, let's say for example in the early game a new player uses a leech for boarding, and they disable the enemy's weapon, and then they think to themselves, oh, okay, well, I guess I can use a leech to disable weapons, right? Well, yeah, fair, because if you think about for like 2 seconds, in Sector 1 and 2, these enemies are having like 1 or 2 powered weapons. If you plot one leech into the weapon system, half the offense is gone. So of course the leeches are going to look cool. But once you get past like Sector 3, and these enemies have like 2 shield bubbles, 5 weapon power, and obviously significantly stronger crew to kill off your 80 HP leeches, yeah, they fall off very, very fast. So I won't put them in D tier because I'm not going to be that mean to them, but leeches don't have my respect. So, and again, the Ampries, the elite leeches are the same. They're actually identical. So, lizards are probably C or B tier. I'll put C tier just because. I mean, the lizards are fine. Their stats are good. They deal increased combat damage. They suck at repairing, but they're basically fighters. They can regenerate when they're out of combat, and they I think they take slightly less environmental damage. Not by much though. I feel like excluding fire, but the thing though is that the reason why I feel like the C tier is that the amount of effort you can put into grabbing lizards is like 100% more effort than you can put into going to the recovery site and grabbing augmented boarding versus lizard boarding. So I feel like you can apply that logic to every single boarding strat, but I want to be realistic here, so C tier. Malforms are probably A or B tier. Let's put them in a comfy A tier. For the longest time, I used to think the Morfs weren't good, but I feel like, I don't know, I just using them over the past few months and doing like shits and giggles with gimmicks and using ancient drones with technopaths, I think the Morphs are very formidable when you can use them effectively. Especially the Malforms with depending on the elite that you can select and your current setup. It's actually funny. I forgot what run it was, but it was like it was like Coalition A or something like that. When I had like a Mantis boarding squad and I was missing one Mantis. But I was able to get a Malform and copy my Shazamian, and I guess the Malform was basically a Shazamian, so that basically solidified the Hive Mantis boarding, including one glowy golden blob. So enough silliness though, yeah. Being able to copy any elite in the game with decent crew, with decent HP of that elite, as well as having good lab upgrades for the Morphs themselves. They are formidable. Mantis are probably A tier. They are very, very good fighters. Happy to use them, of course. Even ship side, they're still fine. The only downside is the repair. That's like the only downside I can see in Mantis, to be honest. And maybe that, okay, fine, they don't have like absurd amounts of HP, but besides that. Bishops are probably S or A. Let's do A tier. Bishops are absolute fighters. They will never be shipside maintenance. They can be shipside like anti-boarding, but they will never be a reliable shipside crew. They take much less combat damage. They deal the same effective damage as a Legionnaire. They can use pheromones to increase their damage to like 4 or 5 times, which basically like like 2.5 shots, like 100 HP crew, maybe even 3 shots. Yeah, they're pretty nice to use, not gonna lie, for Mantis boarding. Free Mantis are S tier for sure, though. So the thing with the Free Mantis is that the Free Mantis are supposed to be, like, naturally weaker Mantis, except they have, like, a pheromone ability, which gives them, like a DPS boost in the middle of a fight to maybe give them an edge. The thing with that, though, is that the Free Mantis crew themselves, they do have increased damage overall. They have 120% combat damage, and Mantis have 150, so they only have 30% less combat damage. And their pheromone ability increases that to 220%, even faster movement speed as well, too. And the pheromone ability lasts like 8 or 9 seconds, so that's 8 or 9 seconds of 220% combat damage, which is, well, I guess for another comparison, that's only 60% less than a bishop. So, like, the thing is that it's supposed to be like in a drag race, the Free Mantis is not supposed to be that much better, but it is because the pheromone ability, you know, for some reason, past playtesting in the Multiverse Discord, they assumed that the Free Mantis should have a pheromone ability that lasts longer than 5 seconds. Apparently, that's what they thought would be balanced for Free Mantis. So, I mean, what do I know though? I mean, I only have like 2,000 hours in this game, so. Maybe they know something I don't, and Separatists are balanced, and Free Mantis are pinnacles of fighters. Warlords are just better Free Mantis, not much to explain there. I guess they, without their pheromones, they are a little squishy, but with their pheromones, they are actually stronger than bishops, so, yeah. Shazamians are A tier for sure. They're better Mantis, but they aren't worthy of S tier. Worse bishops, better Mantis. Decent ship side. Not for repairing, obviously, but for anti-boarding and regular boarding, so. Mayors, again, I talked about ghosts earlier. Morphs, probably A or B. Let's put B tier because, it's a little hypocritical. I just talked about morphs being all, you know, so glorious in what they did, but I think the reason why I put the morphs in B tier is because the Technopaths exist and the Malform exists, and I guess being able to copy any crew in the game can allow some goofy functions with, like, I don't know, making like morph boarding with like shells or whatever. But the thing is that, again, why would I want to use the morphed copied variants of crew when I can just use the actual crew themselves instead of using morphed variants, right? Like, why would I want to use why would I want to use like an Orchid morph when I can just use a regular Orchid? You know, besides the suffocation immunity, which I don't really care. So, again, good crew, but not A tier. Obelisks are easily A tier though. They are probably one of the best anti-boarding. They're basically rocks combined with Mantis, and immune to suffocation, immune to fire. They're probably the best ships. They're probably the best anti-boarding. Not the best at boarding, but anti-boarding for sure. And Obelisk Royals are, well, direct upgrades from regular Obelisks, because you're not going to use Obelisks to repair anyway, so who cares if the Royal Obelisks repair at the speed of a Bishop. 300 HP, 200% combat damage, and immune to fire and suffocation. I mean, shit, man. The Crusaders that never die. They don't die. So, yeah. Orchids are probably S tier as well. Orchid blue options and Orchid stats are pretty absurd. You can use Orchid blue options to get kernels. You can use them to get scrap. You can use them to kill crew. And what else? Being able to passively increase maximum HP and repair speed in the same room is Yeah, that seems just a little tinsy broken, but what do I know? Oh, Chieftains are direct upgrades, so obviously S tier. Vampweeds are probably either B or A. Let's put them B tier. Nah, let's put them A tier. They are the direct opposites of regular Orchids. Instead of directly buffing your own crew, they debuff the enemy crew, moving them slower and less maximum HP. So you can do some really interesting boarding shots with Vampweeds, as well as Vampweeds just still being good crew, because again they have the base stats, except they take more fire damage, and they have the passive ability, which is pretty absurd as well. Cultivators, crew you cannot obtain, which is, I mean, fitting for Legionnaires. A tier because they are basically Vampweeds that just have a really, really intimidating active ability that will cripple enemy crew in the same room. I'm not going to talk about them much though, because again, they're unattainable. Rhymes is interesting because I shouldn't include this crew in the list, considering he's only obtainable on Rhyme or C. But why not? Because he's silly, he's funny and silly to use. You can use him with Temporal Manipulator, which allows him to basically gain enough stats for him to immediately become extremely violent and good at killing crew. Which, you know, like I can't remember, but I think it's after 4 ability charges of Rhymes doing his shtick, and he's able to one-shot 100 HP crew. And I think with 6 stacks, he's able to one-shot 200 HP crew. So, yeah, pretty nice. The downside is that he can't be cloned. He can't be healed in a med bay. Actually, no, he can be. Sorry, he can be healed in a med bay. He cannot be cloned, which basically means if he dies in a ship explosion, he's gone. Reconstructive pretty much solves that issue though. So, Commandos are probably B or A. I hate Commandos ship side because they're basically rocks, but if they ever get mind controlled, they start fires in your own ship, which sucks. So, because for that one reason that they can be susceptible to mind controls, they're gonna go in B tier. Otherwise, for boarding, amazing fire strats with fire immune crew, but simply because they're susceptible to mind control and they're basically rock crew that can spawn fires, and just because they can do something doesn't mean they should be able to do it. So I'll leave that up to you to decide if you think it's worthy of being B tier or not. Rocks are A tier though. Again, they're just, like I said before, if Lost Link Commanders would be A tier if they just didn't spawn fires. Regular rocks don't spawn fires, so. Crusaders I will put them in S tier, but I don't think they aren't that good. Crusaders have a really high maximum HP. They move even slower. They're immune to stun and even less. They have even suffocation resistance. So they're basically meant to just be parked in one room. Whatever that may look like piloting or weapons, evasion, even like a boarding party. And yeah, they are pretty good for what they do. As well, they count as an elite, so nice. Cultists are rocks, but they have an active ability to become absurdly powerful. Basically like free Mantis all over again, so not much to explain. Outcasts are just regular rocks that have combat damage with other outcasts in the room. I would put them B tier, but they aren't strictly worse than regular rocks. I mean, yeah, they have 15 less HP, but if you have other outcasts in the same room, they can be a formidable force. Plus, they are still rock crew, so. Paladins are probably B tier though. They are Crusaders, but they are worse. I don't care if they have even higher HP. They aren't dealing combat damage. They aren't doing their job. And because of that, now I think about it, none of the rock crew should be A tier. Okay, fine. The Outcast and Crusaders can be. But the other rocks, no. In a game like Multiverse, when you have crew that can deal massive amounts of combat damage all of a sudden for no real reason besides, hey, Multiverse bullshit happens, maximum HP doesn't matter because you need the combat damage to win actual fights. And rocks don't have that. The rocks can really only just tank. They can't deal more damage. I mean, at least like in the late game when it matters. So shells are basically budget augmented though. Instead of being as stupid broken, they are only stupid broken with their abilities. So the thing that makes shells slightly worse than augmented is that instead of going to full, like replenishing all their health, shells cripple themselves using their explosion. So they're basically meant to be like suicide boarding, which is like, I don't know, can I say that word? Yeah, surely I can say that word, but they're basically like they're basically better devotees. Wait, that's not a good comparison. What am I talking about? Okay, they're basically very good at just sacrificing themselves in order to steamroll the enemy using system damage, as well as 15 crew damage. Guardians are basically shells that are more vulnerable but have an even stronger ability. So if you pair them with Clone Bay, they are direct upgrades to shells. Mechanics are B tier though. They're codependent. Being able to immediately repair a system is nice, but if that system gets damaged again when your ability isn't on cooldown, or for some reason or another the mechanic can't really repair the system with its ability, yeah, it's not gonna look pretty. So Radiants are just weaker shells though. Well, I mean, are they weaker? I don't know. I mean, fine, they can go in S tier just because someone will get mad at me for putting them lower than a regular shell. I don't care about the suffocation damage, like the 5 times suffocation damage. I more care about the amount of combustions they can do with their ability. So I guess, yeah, fine, they can S tier, they can go just simply because with their combustion they can basically be like a shell guardian with using 2 combustions in 1 effectively. Shell scientists are A tier though. Interesting enough, they're just like human medics, except they sacrifice their HP to then heal everyone else. And they also heal themselves with healing over time. And they have base stats with taking less combat damage, dealing basic combat damage. Basic is still okay. Not amazing, but still fine. And they are good support crew. Definitely not too bad. Sirens are probably B or A. Probably B tier. Simply because the damage over time for all crew in the room does not matter. I guess captivating crew using the passive ability is fine as well, but again, they aren't impressive. I mean, they're good ship side and they're good for kiting crew, but I mean, they only apply on the ships that you can actually have sirens on. So Harpies are direct upgrades from sirens. Not much to explain there. They deal even higher damage over time using the passive ability. They have increased maximum HP to 300. And I forgot, do they have a downside? I can't remember. If they do, it's nothing significant. So, yeah. Slugs are probably B tier though. B tier because they have the exact same stats as a human, except, well, no environmental resistance. I mean, little at that, but they are mind control immune humans that have good blue options, as well as just being good pilots, good evasion, and when in doubt, you can still use a slug for boarding. So, I mean, not really, kinda. In theory, you can. So, clansmans are better slugs. Hector employees are worse slugs, and knights are super elite slugs. Knights are interesting. I used to think knights were like one of the worst super elites, but that obviously applies to paladins. And to be honest, I think the stun bomb is actually pretty good when the player uses it, if you use it right, of course. Being able to phase through doors and just having increased maximum HP, along with just dealing, basic combat damage, they have no real downsides besides being good super elites. So S tier they can go. Plus, you can actually get multiple knights. You can get 2 from knights, like in the royal nebula, as well as starting with them. Slug rangers are probably A tier. The only downside to them is that they cannot sabotage systems, to be honest. I guess the movement speed is also a little awkward to play around with, but I don't think it matters that much, to be honest. Slug ranges are still pretty nice to use. Dealing more combat damage, taking less combat damage, and the stun bomb, which is does not have friendly fire, is very, very good. Well, when it matters. Saboteurs are probably S tier. They are basically what ghosts should be, except they're infinitely better at their jobs. So, yeah. Active ability to go into a cloak mode in sabotage systems with even higher DPS, or not DPS, but sabotage bonus. Definitely not too shit. Spiders, let's not take too much time on this. Technopaths, oh right, Technopaths, A tier. Main reason why is because the Technopaths can mimic the drones. More specifically, the ship-side drones that are absurdly powerful. Like, for example, a director drone. If you think about it for like 4 seconds, crew that can become free director drones without needing a drone system. Like, I don't know about you, but that's almost S tier worthy if Technopaths weren't really a pain in the ass to get. If you could get a Technopath as common as you could get an Augmented, they would be S tier. But because they're kind of hard to get, they can stay A tier. Good, but not like the absolute pinnacle of ship side. Weaker things or lesser things are probably B tier. Maybe even C tier, but again, why not even put this in the tier list? But regardless, if you know, you know. But I don't really care to use these guys. I really should not play with them at all. But yeah. Zoltans are probably A tier, to be honest. The reason why they're A tier is that I think that the lab upgrades can make them super effective ship side. Super. Well, with some codependency. But again, the theme of this whole tier list has been how versatile they are. And Zoltans are versatile in the sense that you can use them for multiple functions besides just being in a room providing more power, because Multiverse does have a pretty good power. It has a pretty severe, not good. So good is not the right word, but they have a severe power creep. The game does. So having either one more reactor ball from a Zoltan could be the difference between having a level 4 or 5 cloak, which is literally the difference between having a flawless phase 3 or not. But yeah. Still fairly good crew. The blue options are not too bad. And again, they have base stats except just less HP, which makes them susceptible to environmental damage as well as just crew that are really good at combat. But ship side, if they have something to go with them, like some kind of anti-boarding, they're basically like one of the best like to manage your own ship. Besides like Engis or Augmented, which is, you know, another page in the chapter of Multiverse. Devotees are slightly weaker Zoltans, but not by much. Simply because you're not really going to use Devotees for boarding, you're going to use them for ship side. And I guess, yeah, in the early game you use them for boarding because you have nothing else to use, but ship side, eventually they integrate into becoming ship side. Martyrs are just better Dustbringers or Devotees. How was that? Oh, it was the song. They're just better devotees. Monks are S tier for sure, though. They are regular Zoltans, except their active ability, allowing them to stun all crew in the room. No, preferably enemy crew, I should say. But they are extremely good at kiting. They will never attack a sabotage crew, which means they actually are good. They are good ship side because, well, they aren't really going to attack your own crew. They aren't going to sabotage your own systems. So, and enemies cannot use the monk ability. So. It's actually pretty good to use. Like, let's say if like the for example, if enemies cannot use the Commandos ability, the Commando would obviously be like A tier, maybe even S tier. The monk is up there because the ability is so good at kiting enemies. Now let's say you got boarded by an MFK into like an airlock. You open the airlock to scare the MFK. You run in there with your monk for like 0.1 seconds, stun the MFK for like 10 seconds, and yeah, he's a goner. So, yeah, pretty impressive crew. Osmains, probably A or B. put them B tier. I don't really care about the holograms, even if the holograms are interesting to use or not. I don't care. I just want to use crew that are always strong. I don't want to use some like they're basically Osmains are like what technician crew want. The Osmains are like what they want to be with in terms of like technician crew, right? It's like, well, I have like an active ability that can spawn another temporary crew that might help me. Well, not really, because the holograms don't matter. I mean, they're level 2 trains, they provided additional power for momentarily, but besides that, why would I ever care? I want to use reliable crew that always work. And Peacekeepers are A tier, S tier. Well, actually, should I say lastly? Yeah, I'll say lastly we got Peacekeeper, goes in S tier. Much stronger Zoltan, much more susceptible to dying because of 65 HP. Except they have the same blue options as a human soldier. Meaning, remember we talked about the mine launcher, or the request military supplies from a civilian guard. But yeah, Zoltan Peacekeepers provide 2 power with a lab upgrade that increases to 4 power, which is, I mean, I guess that's like a very interesting factor for some crew to use. What the hell? What did I just say? Okay, well, let's just retrace my steps here. The Peacekeepers are very good ship side. They're completely innovative compared to regular Zoltans. So, yeah. So what do I think about this list? To be honest, I feel like I did rush this a little bit, given how much time I spent on this. An hour. This does feel a little rushed, to be honest, but I don't know, man. I feel happy about this. I guess let's can finish off with finishes off with a couple of things here. So in S tier we got Augmented, Separatists, MFK Aces, Human Soldier, Technician, Mantis, Warlord, Obelisk Royal, Orchid, Chieftain, regular Orchid, Cultists, Shell Guardians, Shells, Radiants, Knights of Night, Saboteurs, Zoltan Monks, Zoltan Peacekeepers. In A tier we got Advanced Cognitives, Liberated Crystals, Crystal Sentinels, Engi Defenders, Angels, Legionnaires, Pyrotechnics, or Legionnaire Pyrotechnics, Medics, Welders, Malforms, Bishops, Shazamians, regular Hive Mantis, Obelisks, Cultivators, Ramp Reeds, Rhymes, Outcasts, Crusaders, Shell Scientists, Hoppies, Clansmen, Rangers, Technopaths, Zoltan, Devotee, and Martyrs. In B tier we got Engis, Cognitives, Crystals, Crystalline Horse, Tamed Horse, Human Engineer, Lanius, Morph, Rock, Commando, Paladin, Shell Mechanic, Simon, Slug, Lesser Thing, and Osmains. And in C tier we got Alpha Ghost, Regular Ghost, Lizards, or Tree Lizard Things, as they're called, Untamed Horses, Humans, Elite Leeches, Ampries, and regular Leeches, Hector Slugs, and Spider Weavers. And in D tier we got Alpha Ghouls, regular Ghoul, Mare, Spider Adult, or Adult Spider rather, and Hatchling Spider. And in F tier we got Alpha Mares, Wraiths, and Alpha Wraiths. So that'll be it for the tier list then. Any immediate changes I can think of? Let's see. I'm trying to look at the lower half here with the ghosts and the spiders. To be honest, no, they are awful. Let's call this tier. Should I still call this F tier? Why not? Maybe then like a. Did I figure this out? No, I'm never gonna figure this out. Who cares? You get the point of this tier list. Yeah, that's kind of it for the video today. Much shorter compared to my previous tier list, which was, well, doubled this time. I do feel confident about this tier list. I feel like I might have rushed some of these rankings, and I'm also biased, but yeah, I think this is definitely confident. I mean, you know, as low as I rank these crew, C tier and below, they're still fine. I mean, I should say, like, I think I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video, but for a game as big as Multiverse, despite it being absolutely unbalanced, there's still a lot of subjectivity between gimmicks and traditional strategies to win the game. You can very well win the game with spiders. You can win the game with ghosts. Is it going to be any easier than winning the game with, like, free Mantis or Augmented? Absolutely not. So, that's just kind of why I thought, like, a tier list like this would make sense. Or at least would be comprehensible in what I'm trying to say. But, yeah, I feel like to wrap up here, then I'll say, my last tier list did pretty well. I expect this one to be, I don't know, I mean, if I follow the same trend, I guess this tier list might do pretty well as well. Well, the video, now I'll upload soon enough. What else should I say? If you have any questions or comments about my rankings, please state them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer, debate, or anything answer anything you have to ask about these rankings. Maybe in the future I can do like a unique crew tier list, a meme tier list maybe of just like wacky shit that I can come across. Maybe in a sector tier list, a weapon tier list. You know, the list goes on. But yeah, thank you for watching to the end. To be honest, I was shocked when I saw people watch the end for my ship tier list, and well, I would be even more shocked if someone watched the end of this tier list. So yeah, thanks though if you watched it to this end. Like, comment, and subscribe for more. And if you guys like this kind of content, to be honest, with these voiceovers or commentary or just tier lists, you know, something besides raw footage of my FTL runs, also state that in the comments. I'll be I've been willing to kind of expand my content besides just, well, steamrolling Multiverse. Maybe even playing vanilla, maybe playing another game, like who knows? Like, you know, maybe someday I'll have the Tropical brand, but you know, until then, thanks for watching. See you guys again in the future. Bye.